On today's episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show, we're going to be talking about the Phoenix Suns potentially imploding. They're right now 15 and 17 in the Western Conference, which puts them at the 11th seed. And we're going to be talking about Cam Whitmore, who's been balling in his 6 games back with the Houston Rockets. So stay tuned for this episode of the show.
All right, and welcome back to the episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show. Y'all heard Brad in the intro. Today, we're going to be talking about, obviously, Cam Whitmore and what he's looked like coming back from the G League. He had I'll say, interesting interview after the Rockets went over the Dallas Mavericks last night. And then we're going to talk about some things with the Phoenix Suns and just kind of that implosion that's seeming sooner than later, which is obviously important considering the Houston Rockets own the Phoenix Suns draft capital the next 3 upcoming drafts. So, Brad, I want to start with you with Cam Whitmore. I guess we can start positive, right? You don't gotta start negative with everything. What have you been seeing from Cam Whitmore since I think he's played 4 games since he's been back from the G League?
Yeah, so Cam has played 6 games since coming back from the G League, and that's with Tari Eason being down. Of course, Cam has filled in, and he's been productive. Only 19 minutes per game, but I have the stats pulled up here. He's averaging 14 points in those 19 minutes. But most importantly, he's been efficient. You know, he's shooting 51% from the field, 44.4% from 3 and around 4.5 attempts a game. Not that many free throws. He's taking 1.5, but he's 89% on those free throws. So he's coming in, giving that scoring punch, averaging like 0.8 steals a game, which is actually really good for only 19 minutes. The defense has been better. Udoka commended him last night in their win against the Dallas Mavericks. Said the rotations have looked a lot better since coming back from the G League. That's something they wanted him to work on as well. But yeah, just that we know what Cam Whitmore is. He comes in, he's a microwave scorer, and he's been the definition of that. You know, the issue with him to start the season was he just wasn't hitting any threes. He only made 1 3 before he got sent back to the G League. He was like 1 for 19 or something like that from 3. So good to see him find his stroke again from 3 and playing solid defense as well. He's a guy that could help this Rockets team, even if they're fully healthy. He could potentially fill that Aaron Holiday role and be a 10th man if they extend the 10. I don't know if they will. But yeah, interview last night. Cam, in the first half, he only played 12. He played the full second quarter, I believe. He didn't play the first quarter.
He played the full second and fourth quarters pretty much.
The full second and fourth quarter. In the first half, he had 13 points on 5 of 6 shooting from the field. Didn't play the third quarter, but he then proceeded to play damn near the entire fourth quarter until they put the end of the bench guys in because the game was won. But yeah, if you missed the interview, they said, "Hey Cam, you know you played consistent minutes in the second and fourth to help the Rockets win. You know how was that?" And Cam came back and was like, "Yeah, you know they weren't really consistent minutes." The way I took it, he most likely wants to play that third quarter after having a really good second quarter, and that was frustrating to him. I understand where he's coming from. That's not something I would personally say to the media, right? But I wouldn't think nothing of it personally. The Rockets are still going to have to play him, especially with the men being suspended. Tar was a game time decision against the Mavericks. Assuming that'll be similar against the Celtics, I want Tari to be completely healthy before he plays. I don't need him being a game time decision when he's playing. So they're going to need Cam Whitmore. Point being, he's going to be in the rotation, and I hope they can find those extra minutes for him. But my main thing is I'm happy that he came back from the G League and he's improved on his defensive rotations. He wasn't the best off-ball defender. That was one of my criticisms of him in the past. But he improves on that, and it's great to see. And again, the scoring is much needed for this Rockets team off the bench, especially if they're missing their top 2 guys off the bench. But Will, what do you think about Cam in his 6 games back, and that interview that he had last night against the Mavericks?
I mean, I think he's played really well in his games back. But for me, the biggest thing is I think the process has looked better. Yeah. I don't want to necessarily crown it and say that it's completely night and day from where it was his rookie season because it's still a very small sample size. But from what we have seen in this 6-game sample size, I do think the process has looked a lot better than what it did his rookie season. I don't feel like he's forcing the issue as much. I think that he's making smarter plays. I've seen him give the ball up in transition. There's a couple of times where I think he does it reluctantly. You kind of see he's like, man, I got to give this up. But I mean, he's doing it. These are things that he did not do at all his rookie season, so I'm glad to see he's kind of making those adjustments. I've always maintained that the reason why Cam Whitmore has struggled to find consistent minutes has never been because he's not talented or because the Rockets don't believe in him. It's more or less because he needs to find a way to play a role and be good at that role before we can start talking about you being the star of the team and taking over star reps on this team. And so, like, there's been possessions that really stood out to me where he would have the ball in transition, and he, this was last year. He would try to dunk on the whole team if you would let him in transition. But I saw him this season. He gave the ball up. I think like Shingun relocated, and then Shingun found him again. He got a good shot, and to me, that's good basketball. And if I'm coach, that's a play that I'm showing Cam a million times in practice. Like, look how you got off the ball, relocated, got it back, and you got a good look. Like that. Those are things that I would be like heavy emphasizing to Cam if I'm coach on the sidelines and of course in practice. As far as the comments, like I said, I don't want to say they were bad because I think that's not the right way to describe it. I'd say that they were interesting because on one hand, it's like we just won and you had a pretty good game in the win. I feel like we should be a bit more upbeat and happy than that. Um, but at the same time, I also interpreted it as a young player who is very hard on himself. I think a lot of that was also Cam being like, hey, he feels like he could do more. He could play better than what he is playing. And so obviously, like, you're going to be your biggest critic. So I think part of that was not just him necessarily lashing out on the coach. I think he's also kind of mad at himself and wants to hold himself to a higher standard than what he's been playing at. At the same time, though, if Cam Whitmore is confused about role, I think to me that would be a bit concerning because I think that what he needs to do to get more minutes is pretty like laid out. I know it. Brad knows it. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys at home know what Cam needs to do to continue to get more minutes. It's like I said, to play a role, to be better at doing the small things, and then we can start talking about you being a star. Um, so like with pretty much everything when it comes to discourse, I think that the right answer is somewhere always in the middle. I see both sides. I see Cam's side of he's a 19, or he's 20 now. He was 19 last year. He's 20 years old now, fresh out of college. He should have went top 7-ish. I had him. I think I had him number 6 on my board that year.
Yeah, I had him there too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had him behind. I've said Wimby. I had Scooted 2. I had a minute 3. I think I had Miller, Asar, and Cam in
Yeah.
any combination 4 through 6.
Mhm.
Those are uh, my top 6 guys that draft class. So
Mhm.
he should have went obviously a lot higher than what he went. And if he went, top 7, he's probably going to a bad team that doesn't have much in place. So he would have went to a team where he would have been able to more or less start from day one, get 15, 17 shots a game from day one, and play more or less the way we know Cam Williams wants to play.
Mhm.
Or because he went to the Rockets that are, we're already very deep and we were trying to win last season. He wasn't in a position to just come in and get a bunch of usage from day one and start and put up 15 shots. Like that wasn't what we needed from Campbell. We didn't play a role. So I understand his frustration on that front. It's like, dude, I'm young. I want to play. Like, what young player doesn't want to play? And I want Cam Whitmore to carry that edge that Cam Whitmore believes he's the best player in the NBA today. And I love that about Cam. I want him to think that he's the best player in the NBA right now. So like I think Cam uh, maybe shouldn't have vocalized that feeling to the media, but I think he's perfectly valid in feeling that way. I also think Ime Udoka is perfectly valid in saying I need you to play a role first before we give you a larger role on this team. Whether we like it or not, I know people look at his highlights, his dunks, his threes, and he's the new shiny toy. We got him at pick 20 when he should have went top 7. And then a lot of people just I'm not gonna say for whatever reason, but people don't like Jalen Green and they think he could do the Jalen Green job better than Jalen. I'm here to let you know, at least based upon his rookie season, he could not. Like that is not what he would be able to do. We overlook the fact that he had one of the lowest assist percentages in NBA history his rookie season. Somebody put the stat. James Pierce put the stat on the TL today. Per 75 possessions, he's averaging 1.5 assists, which
Wow.
which is terrible. Like
That's
I don't think y'all understand how bad that is. And when you look at Ime Udoka, the type of coach that he is, his one of the first things Ime Udoka said when he got hired. I watched his press conference. We all did. One of the first things he said in the introductory press conference was he was going to come in the guys were going to move the ball more. There was going to be more secondary assists, more swing. He didn't like the way that the ball stuck under the Steven Silas regime, and that was one of the main things he said he was going to fix when he took over as head coach. Cam Whitmore struggles at that. And when you're a head coach who preaches ball movement and you have a player who struggles at those things, it makes sense why he doesn't play as much. And then I'll land my plane, because I've been talking about it. I'll land my plane by saying I think a lot of people think that the Rockets are mismanaging Cam Whitmore, and I'd actually argue the opposite. I'd argue that this is what's best for Cam Whitmore's career, because he has such a detrimental flaw: the ball stopping, the tunnel vision, the bad shot selection at times. Was to his credit, this season it has not. It has been nowhere near as bad as the rookie season. Small sample size, but in that small sample, it's been nowhere near as bad as it was his rookie season. Um, that's a fatal flaw. That's a really bad flaw that you have to get out the way early, because if that just sticks with you for the rest of your career, it's just gonna be there. It's never gonna go away. Um, and I think that if you were to send, like, for example, if Cam Whitmore was drafted to the Steven Silas Rockets, he would have averaged a lot more points because he would have played more. He would have put up more shots. I
Right.
think his process and game IQ would have been cooked beyond repair if we let him go out there and play in that environment. I think Cam Whitmore very much needs the structure that Ime Udoka is giving him. I think he needs to sit behind and learn from the vets, and learn and watch from the other guys out there. Like Jalen Green, for as inefficient as he is, Jalen Green's process for the most part is not bad. Jalen Green's not a ball stopper. He just doesn't make shots. And so I think Cam Whitmore needed to learn behind those things, and learn from Ime Udoka in that environment before going to, like, or not before, instead of going to another environment where they would just let him go out there and put up a 15, 20 shots a game off rips. So I love my plan by saying I actually think that Cam Whitmore is in a really good spot for his development. And I think that, especially considering Min's gonna be suspended on Friday. Tari, at this point, Tari, I don't know. We got to talk about that later, I guess. I don't know if Tari's gonna be playing anytime soon. Uh,
Yeah.
Cam Whitmore, I like that he's getting minutes, and I think he should continue to see minutes during this stretch.
Yeah, I was gonna add this. I don't know if you knew, but yeah, when Udoka came in, he was mentioning he wanted the Rockets to be a lot better with like secondary assists. Did you know they were third to last in the NBA right now in secondary assists?
Right
Like
now,
right now. Yes.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's bad. I can talk about that in a minute, but yeah, that's it's bad.
Yeah, that's bad. I mean, they're second to last in the NBA in assists as a whole. I mean, last in assist percentage, but that's a different conversation. Cam related though. Yeah, this has been the story with his career at Villanova. You know, he had like 3 assists as his career high last year. I tweeted out in the Clippers game.
Wait. That's his career high from his rookie season.
If you remember on the last game of the season last year, I tweeted Cam has his career high in assists, and I put in quotations 3. Everyone was cracking up.
And that was game 82.
Yeah, it came 82.
Um, and like I said, bro, I know it's gonna be somebody who gonna come into the comments and call me a Cam Whitmore hater,
I'm not even hating.
but like, that's not good, dog. To play a whole season last year and your career high came the very last game and it was 3.
Let me
Like,
double check. Let me double check. I think that's his career high in assists. But yeah, to your point though, they're gonna like you said. I said the same thing. They're gonna need Cam. He's doing what he's supposed to do. The rotations look good. He's shooting well. But yeah, it is always funny talking about how he is when he's passing the rock. But yeah, I'll double check that as we move into the next segment. I know we're going to talk about the Phoenix Suns. They look pretty bad right now, 15-17, and which is good. I mean, right now the Rockets are projected to have their 12th pick. We'd have like a 7% chance to get into the top 4, but that's not the point of that trade that the Rockets made. You know, they could potentially implode over there in Phoenix, and that means, you know, we not only have the 2025 pick, but we have their future picks as well, 2029. And Will, correct me if I'm wrong. It's a 2027 one as
I'll
well.
look it up the picks for you right now.
But yeah, Phoenix losing in the first round is the best thing that can happen. Like, even, I mean, they can miss the playoffs outright. I don't know. But if they lose in the first round and it's embarrassing like last year when they got swept by the Minnesota Timberwolves, you can't you can't be KD and be like, oh, I'm cool with this happening again. He's coming back the next year. They can't improve the team. They're under the second apron tax. I mean, they have to run it back with the same team pretty much. Again, if their ceiling is the first round and I'm KD and I'm 36 and my goal is to win a championship, why am I sitting around? You know, he left Brooklyn, he left Golden State, he may leave Phoenix, and if that happens, the Rockets have Phoenix's picks, and they're going to be running to Houston like, hey, I want my picks back. I want to rebuild, and that would be amazing because then you could potentially get a Devin Booker kind of player. But Will, what do you think about the Phoenix Suns? I think their ceiling is the first round. They have a lot of talent. They actually look really good when they're healthy, but that hasn't been a story of this season. So it could get ugly. But what do you think about them so far?
I think that they are. I mean, they're what 15 and 17 on the season. They're
Yeah.
injury prone.
Yes.
They're old,
Yep.
and they don't have any draft picks or cap space to address the roster. I think this is more or less as good as it's going to look for the Phoenix Suns. Maybe they make a move around the margins here or there that maybe someone gives them a bit of competitive edge, but I mean it's a really bad situation to be in if you're the Phoenix Suns. You don't want to be out of money and draft assets and also not be one of the best teams in the league. Like that's just typically a recipe for disaster. So I looked it up. We own their pick in 2025 this year. We own their pick in 2027, and then we own their pick again in 2029. So that's 3 years. And then obviously, like with this year, them being on the outside looking into the playoffs, um, as you know, if it's were the league were to end today, the Rockets will be sitting on a pretty good pick from the Phoenix Suns. I'll just look it up real quick.
Right now it's well,
It's 12,
yeah.
and yeah. So there you go, and that would be pick 12, which you can find a really good player. Um,
Mhm.
the 12th pick in the NBA draft. If you have a good general manager like Raphael Stone is, you can find a good player there.
Right.
But what I wanted to do though, Bryce, I wanted to do a social experiment with you.
Go ahead.
And I did it on my TikTok, and I guess the viewers at home, y'all can kind of play along with the social experiment as well. All right. In 2021, that was the year that we traded James Harden in January to the Brooklyn Nets. And that was kind of like the final uh, dagger in like, all right, it's time to hit the rebuild button. Like it was
Yeah.
once James Harden was gone, it was just time to, even if you didn't think that you thought they could somebody be competitive with John Wall, with Christian Wood, whatever. Like once James Harden said it's time to go, that was the nail in the coffin. It's time to rebuild, right?
Right.
So and when we have the power of hindsight here, so I also do want y'all to use hindsight in this experiment. In 2021, we won 17 games, got the number 2 overall pick, drafted Jalen Green. In 2022, we won 20 games, got the number 3 overall pick, drafted Jabari Smith Jr. And in 2023, we won 22 games, got the 4th overall pick, and drafted Amen Thompson. And those were all like direct correlations from James Harden calling it quits, the Rockets hitting a hard tank, and drafting high every year, right? That's what we know. In this hypothetical experiment, let's say that James Harden still requests for a trade in 2021, but we don't own our draft picks in 2021, 2022, and 2023. So meaning, as currently constructed, we are in no position to draft Jalen, Jabari, and Amen. And let's say, hypothetically speaking, that John Wall at that point in time, let's say he had like the best season of his career, and teams decided, oh, we want to trade for John Wall because the Rockets are about to tank, so obviously they don't need John Wall anymore. And there's a team out there that wants his, or let's say there's 2 teams that want his services, right? Team A is offering you 5 random draft picks for John Wall, just 5 random draft picks. So they could be good, they could be mid, they could be bad. You don't know because they're just 5 random draft picks from a random collection of teams. I guess numbers wise, 1 or 2 of them could end up being pretty good, but you don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of left the chance what happened with those draft picks. And then team 2 is going to offer you 3 draft picks. But the 3 draft picks they're offering you are your picks in 21, 22, and 23. Which trade do you accept? The 5 draft picks or your 3 that are yours?
Yeah, in this scenario, I always want my draft picks because you want to control your own destiny in a rebuild. Yeah, so I know that was probably the point of your social experiment.
Yeah. So the point that I'm making is that if the Phoenix Suns decide to blow it up, because I feel like it's harder to think about their perspective when it's not you. That's why I put us in their shoes. Put yourself in the Phoenix Suns shoes because they're about to be where we were in 2021, where they have a disgruntled star that wants out. They're capped out, assets out, whatever. It's time to hit the reset button. Um, if we in 2021 did not have our draft picks and we had the means to move a player on our roster to get those draft picks back, getting those draft picks back would be the priority, and that would outweigh a team giving us for example, five first round picks for that player, right? It would mean a lot more to get your draft picks back, and that is why I say that with this Phoenix Suns team, that in my opinion is like the definition of a ticking time bomb. I think they have the rest of the season and best case scenario next season, but even then, I'm not even sure it gets that far because of how like aging, injury prone, and the luxury tax on this new CBA is like it's insane. You finna start paying a lot of money for a team that's gonna get first rounded, assuming you even get that point. Because I said they are the 11th seed right now.
Mhm.
If you decide that it's time to hit the reset button, which a smart GM probably should assess and say it probably is, you can't hit the reset button without your draft picks that we own. And so when we talk about like trades, and because y'all know I want Devin Booker, if the Phoenix Suns put Devin Booker on the open market, yeah, there probably is a team out there like OKC or San Antonio or Orlando that could offer Phoenix a million first round picks for Devin Booker services. No one else but the Houston Rockets can offer the Phoenix Suns the avenue of a rebuild. Only we can do that. And I don't want KD. I don't want Bradley Beal. So the only option if you're Phoenix is to negotiate with Houston for what do y'all want for those picks? And if I'm gonna say I want Devin Booker, but hey, if you don't want to give me Devin Booker, find me something else that I want for those picks. But I want something, and I don't want KD. I don't want Bradley Beal. So find me something I want for those picks.
Right.
Um, and if you don't want to give them to me, okay, fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, have fun trying to rebuild without your own draft picks. Now you put yourself in our shoes. Now, at the end of those 17, 20, 22 win seasons, instead of drafting Amin Thompson, Jalen Green, and Jabari Smith, you're giving another team Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and Amin Thompson. So that's fine. So yeah, the way I look at it is like the Rockets are in a good position no matter how it shakes out. Either we get a really good player in Devin Booker, or Phoenix finds something that we want in exchange for those picks that's also really good, or we just end up drafting really, really high every year using their draft picks.
Yep.
But no matter how I look at it, like we're in a good position. So I wanted that experiment to kind of contextualize the situation that they're in and why it's. I really do think that there is a strong possibility that when they hit the reset button, that Devin Booker will end up being a Houston Rocket, and I don't think that it's going to cost us. Like people think it's going to cost like a min or Shingun or a million first round picks. I really don't think it's going to cost that much. I'll go on record now saying I think that it would cost two young players not named Amin or Shingun and about 3 picks and maybe a swap. I think that's the trade package that it would cost. I think that's pretty fair for both sides, considering the Rockets will be getting Devin Booker and the Suns will be getting their picks back, and they will be getting the avenue of a rebuild on top of the young talent we'd be giving them in addition to that. So, yeah, I'll let my plan there.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say is I think Will's completely right. Phoenix is going to want their picks back. And if they're not, then again, the Rockets have some solid picks. And I think people usually say is, the Rockets should just kept those Brooklyn picks. Like, look at them now. And again, Brooklyn wasn't going to be trading away all these guys if they didn't have their picks, because there's no point in tanking if you don't have your picks because it doesn't make a difference. You want to almost stay competitive. So that wouldn't happen. They'd be a little bit better. They still be bad, yes, but getting these Phoenix picks is more valuable because you could potentially get a superstar out of this, as Will mentioned. So I like the move that Stone made in the offseason. We'll let it play out. We'll see. We'll see what happens with these Suns. It doesn't look pretty, but it's looking good right now. And it was definitely a talking point. But Will, did you have anything else to discuss? Yeah, now it's going to conclude this episode of the Bradeaux Show. We're going to come back sooner than later. Sorry for the delay last time. We're going to be recording more often, but appreciate y'all for tuning in, and we'll be back.